rumor that put Bronny James back under the NBA microscope, the internet thought it had just caught the James family in the biggest personal bombshell of the year. One viral post, one shocking claim, and suddenly the NBA world was acting like LeBron James was about to become a grandfather while still chasing championships in a Lakers jersey. Bronny James, the young guard, already carrying the heaviest last name in basketball, found himself dragged into a storm that had nothing to do with a box score. The claim was simple, explosive, and perfect for social media. Bronny's girlfriend, Parker Whitfield, was allegedly pregnant. Within hours, the rumor spread across X, Instagram, and Facebook like it had been confirmed by a major outlet. But there was one major problem. There was no real source, no verified report, no family confirmation, no statement from Bronny, Parker, LeBron, or anyone close to them. Just a parody-style post, fake breaking news graphics, and millions of people reacting before asking the most basic question: is this even true? That is where this story becomes bigger than a rumor. Because while the baby news appears to be false, the pressure surrounding Bronny James is very real. Every post about him becomes a debate. Every missed shot becomes proof for the doubters. Every small improvement becomes hope for the believer. And every time his name trends, the same question comes back louder than before. Does Bronny truly belong in the NBA? Or is he only there because he is LeBron James's son? This is the part most people miss. Bronny is not just fighting defenders on the court. He is fighting expectations, jokes, viral rumors, career predictions, and the shadow of one of the greatest players who ever lived. And now, with talk around LeBron's future in Los Angeles growing louder, Bronny may be facing the most important stretch of his young career. So before we judge him, we need to understand the full story. Where are you watching from right now? Comment your city below. If you think Bronny deserves more time to prove himself, press 1. If you think the Lakers should move on, press 2. And make sure you subscribe, because this story is only getting started. How a fake story became breaking news? The rumor did not begin inside the James family. It did not come from the Lakers. It did not come from a reporter sitting on a real source. It came from the kind of account the internet should recognize immediately. A parody-style page built to look close enough to real sports media that people react before they think. That was all it took. A post claimed Parker Whitfield was pregnant, tied Bronny James's name to it, added the obvious LeBron grandfather angle, and suddenly the story had everything social media loves. A famous family, a young couple, a legendary athlete, a private life headline, and one joke that practically wrote itself, La Grandpa. But behind the memes was a real person. Parker Whitfield was not just a name in a viral caption. She was a young woman whose relationship was being turned into public entertainment. Her father, Dondre Whitfield, did not treat it like a joke. He pushed back because the rumor involved his daughter, her body, and her private life without proof. That reaction changed the tone of the story. What started as internet comedy suddenly looked careless, because when millions of people repeat something, the damage can feel real even when the claim is not. Bronny and Parker did not rush to deny every post, and honestly, why should they? If every fake rumor gets a response, then the rumor wins. The silence was not suspicious. It was probably discipline. The James family has never needed parody accounts to announce real family milestones. When something matters, it comes from them, not from a page-chasing engagement, not from a graphic built for clicks, not from strangers turning a young couple into a storyline. And yet, the rumor served one purpose. It reminded everyone how quickly Bronny James can become the center of a national conversation without doing anything at all. That is the burden of his last name, the name that opens doors and builds walls. Being LeBron James' son sounds like a dream until you realize it comes with a scoreboard that never turns off. Bronny James was born into basketball royalty, but that also meant every step he took was compared to a man who changed the history of the sport. At Sierra Canyon, Bronny was not just another high school guard. He was watched like a future episode in the LeBron story. Every highlight went viral. Every quiet night became a talking point. Every ranking became a debate about whether he was overrated or underrated. But Bronny was never built like LeBron. He was not a 6'8" freight train. He was not a generational scorer. He was not entering basketball with chosen one labels across his chest. His game was different. Defense, discipline, shooting potential, and the kind of role player vision that does not always become a viral clip. Then came USC. Before he ever had a real chance to prove himself in college, Bronny faced something far bigger than basketball. A serious health scare during practice changed the way people should have talked about him forever. For many athletes, that kind of moment could have ended the dream before it truly began. But Bronny came back. The numbers at USC were not superstar numbers. They were modest. They gave critics plenty of fuel, but those numbers also belonged to a young player returning from something frightening, trying to rebuild rhythm, confidence, conditioning, and trust in his body. That context matters, because when people say Bronny did not dominate college basketball, they are telling only half the story. The other half is that he made it back onto the court at all, and that is why his journey cannot be judged like a normal prospect's journey. Bronny was not just chasing the NBA. He was chasing normal again. The draft pick, that split the NBA world. When the Lakers selected Bronny James with the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the basketball world reacted exactly how everyone expected. Some fans celebrated history, some rolled their eyes, others called it one of the most obvious family favors in modern sports. And the truth is, the conversation was always going to be complicated. The Lakers did not use a lottery pick on Bronny. They did not build a franchise around him. They used a late second-round pick, the kind of selection teams often spend on projects, specialists, and long-shot development players. But because the name on the card was James, it instantly became bigger than basketball. The father-son storyline was impossible to ignore. LeBron had spoken for years about wanting to share an NBA floor with his son. The Lakers had a chance to make that happen. From a business standpoint, a media standpoint, and an emotional standpoint, the pick made sense. But from a pure basketball standpoint, Bronny still had to prove everything. That is where the pressure became unfair but unavoidable. Most 55th picks get time to disappear into development. They can make mistakes in silence. They can grow slowly. They can spend months in the G League without the internet turning every possession into a trial. Bronny did not get that luxury. The moment he put on a Lakers jersey, people judged him like he was supposed to be a finished product. Miss a jumper, and critics called him a mistake. Make a defensive play, and supporters called him underrated. Every small moment became evidence in a case people had already decided in their own mind. But the Lakers were not asking him to be LeBron. They were asking him to become useful, to defend, to make open shots, to stay ready, to survive the noise long enough to develop. That sounds simple. For Bronny James, it was anything but. The rookie season that fed, the doubter. Bronny's rookie season did not silence the critics. If anything, it gave them more ammunition. His minutes were limited, his role was small, and his numbers did not jump off the screen. For anyone already convinced he did not belong, every quiet night felt like confirmation. But the problem with judging Bronny's rookie year only by averages is that averages do not show the full picture. He was not handed a rebuilding team where he could take 15 shots a night and learn through mistakes. He was on the Lakers, a franchise that lives under championship pressure even when the roster is imperfect. Every game matters. Every rotation choice is debated. Every mistake becomes a headline. That is not an easy environment for a second-round rookie trying to find rhythm. Still, the criticism was real. Bronny did not look ready to be a steady NBA rotation player. His shooting came and went. His offensive confidence looked uncertain. At times, he looked like a young guard thinking too much instead of playing freely. And when you are LeBron's son, people do not wait patiently for development. They demand proof immediately. The harshest question followed him everywhere. If his father were not LeBron James, would Bronny still be on this roster? That question was painful, but it was not random. The Lakers were clearly balancing basketball development with the historic father-son story. Everybody knew it, Bronny knew it too. But here's the part that made his response interesting. He did not complain. He did not fight the narrative online. He did not act like the world owed him patience. He kept working. That matters because some players break under the weight of expectations. Bronny did not break. He struggled, but he stayed composed. And sometimes, for a young player buried under noise, surviving the first storm is the first real victory. The question waiting behind LeBron's future. The biggest threat to Bronny's Lakers future may not be one bad shooting night. It may not be one rough preseason game. It may not even be the viral jokes. The biggest question is much colder than that. What happens to Bronny if LeBron leaves Los Angeles? That is the shadow hanging over the entire story. As long as LeBron is a Laker, Bronny has a unique layer of protection. Not because the team has no standards, but because the father-son storyline has value. It matters to fans. It matters to history. It matters to the franchise brand. But NBA teams are not museums. They do not keep players forever just because the story is beautiful. If LeBron retires, leaves, or gets moved, the Lakers will eventually have to evaluate Bronny like every other young player. Can he help them win? Can he defend NBA guards? Can he hit open threes? Can he survive playoff-level physicality? Can he earn minutes without the family storyline attached? That is the real test. And it is why the next stage of Bronny's career feels so important. He does not need to become a star. He does not even need to become a starter, but he does need to become undeniable enough that a coach can look down the bench and trust him. Trust is everything for a role player. The NBA is full of guards who can score in practice. The league is full of athletes who were once highly ranked, but staying in the NBA requires something more specific. You need a role. You need consistency. You need a reason for a coach to choose you when the game gets serious. For Bronny, that reason has to be defense, energy, smart decisions, and reliable shooting. The window is not closed, but it is not wide open forever. South Bay changed the conversation. The G League assignment looked like humiliation to people who wanted Bronny James to fail. The moment the Lakers sent him to South Bay, the loudest critics treated it like the final verdict. To them, this was proof that Bronny was not ready, proof that the NBA spotlight was too bright, proof that the only reason he had a Lakers jersey was the name stitched across his back. But inside real player development, the G League is not supposed to be a punishment. It is supposed to be a laboratory. It is where young players get minutes they cannot get in the NBA. It is where mistakes do not instantly become national headlines. It is where rhythm can be built, confidence can be recovered, and a player can finally breathe long enough to remember who he is. And for Bronny, South Bay may have been exactly what he needed. With the Lakers, every possession felt heavy. One missed jumper could turn into a viral clip. One bad drive could become proof for people who had already decided he did not belong. But with South Bay, the game slowed down. He got real minutes. He touched the ball more. He defended with purpose. He attacked without looking over his shoulder after every mistake. That is when the conversation started to shift. Bronny began looking less like a nervous second-round pick and more like a young guard with a role forming in front of him. His shooting improved. His confidence from three became more visible. His body language changed. Instead of simply trying not to mess up, he started trying to make things happen. That difference matters because development is not always loud. Sometimes it happens in smaller gyms, away from national television, in front of coaches and scouts who are watching details most fans miss. They are not only watching points, they are watching footwork, defensive angles, conditioning, shot preparation, how quickly a player responds after a mistake, whether he competes the same way when nobody is chanting his name. Bronny passed some of those quiet tests. The most important part was not just that he played better, it was that he accepted the assignment. He did not turn it into a public complaint. He did not act like the G League was beneath him. He went there, played, listened, and improved. For a young player carrying a famous last name, that humility is not a small thing. South Bay showed the version of Bronny the Lakers hoped existed. A guard who can defend, hit open shots, run with confidence, and contribute to winning basketball when given a real role. It did not prove he is guaranteed to survive in the NBA, but it proved the story is not finished. There are two versions of Bronny right now. There is the NBA Bronny, fighting for tiny minutes, trying to prove he can survive in a contender's rotation, and there is the South Bay Bronny, playing freer, shooting better, and showing flashes of the player he might become if given time and structure. Now the challenge is connecting those two worlds, because plenty of players can shine in the G League. The ones who last are the ones who bring that confidence back to NBA speed, NBA size, and NBA pressure. Bronny's next mission is clear. Make the South Bay version show up in Los Angeles when the lights are brighter, the defenders are stronger, and every possession matters more. That is where his career will either grow roots or start slipping away. Bronny's real goal is not becoming LeBron. The most misunderstood part of Bronny James's story is that people keep judging him against a standard he never created. Fans compare him to LeBron because it is easy. Analysts compare him to LeBron because it gets attention. Critics compare him to LeBron because it makes Bronny look small before the conversation even begins. But Bronny has never said he is trying to become his father. That matters more than people admit. LeBron James is not a normal measuring stick. He is one of the greatest basketball players ever. A once-in-a-generation force who entered the NBA with impossible expectations and somehow exceeded them. Comparing a young second-round guard to that kind of legacy is not analysis. It is a trap. Bronny's actual basketball vision has always been more realistic and honestly more mature. He has talked about players like Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Davion Mitchell. That tells you everything about how he sees his own pack. Those are players built on defense, toughness, discipline, smart decisions, and winning plays that do not always dominate highlights. That is the lane Bronny wants, and that may be the smartest lane available to him. The NBA does not need him to be another LeBron. It needs him to become reliable. A guard who can pressure the ball, a guard who can make life uncomfortable for opposing scorers, a guard who can stand in the corner, stay ready, and punish defenses when they leave him open. A guard who does not need 10 shots to affect the game. That kind of player can last a long time. But becoming that kind of player takes patience. Drew Holiday did not become a championship-level guard overnight. Derek White had to grow into his confidence, his role, and his reputation. Davion Mitchell had to fight for the right situation and prove his value on the defensive end. Role players are not born finished. They are built through repetition, failure, coaching, and trust. Bronny is still at the beginning of that process. The problem is that his development is happening in public. Most young players get to be incomplete quietly. They can miss rotations, struggle with pace, and spend time in the G League without millions of people mocking them. Bronny cannot. His last name turns every small mistake into a referendum on whether he deserves his career. That is exhausting pressure. Still, the way he talks about his journey reveals something important. He does not sound like someone chasing celebrity. He sounds like someone chasing trust. He wants teammates to believe in him. He wants coaches to believe in him. He wants to step on the floor and know he has earned that moment. That is not flashy, but it is the exact mindset a role player needs. Bronny's ceiling may never look like LeBron's, and that is okay. His success should not be measured by whether he becomes an icon. It should be measured by whether he can carve out a real role in the league on his own terms. Because the true challenge is not escaping LeBron's shadow completely. That may be impossible. The true challenge is learning how to play inside that shadow without letting it swallow him. Bronny does not need to inherit LeBron's throne. He needs to build his own chair, earn his own minutes, and prove that the name on the back of the jersey is not the only reason he belongs. The season that could decide everything. At some point, patience turns into evaluation. That is where Bronny James is now. The story is no Lamoon drafted, sharing the floor with LeBron, or surviving early criticism. The next chapter is about whether he can become useful enough to stay. That is why this upcoming stretch feels so serious. There are analysts who believe Bronny may not be in the league much longer if he does not make a clear jump. That opinion sounds harsh, but the NBA is a harsh business. Teams do not keep developmental players forever unless progress becomes visible. Bronny's challenge is not to win over every internet critic. That will never happen. Some people decided his career was fake before he played a single minute. Others will defend him no matter what. Neither side controls his future. The coaches do. The front office does. The game does. If Bronny can defend consistently, shoot with confidence, and avoid mistakes in limited minutes, he gives the Lakers a reason to keep investing. If he struggles to translate G League confidence into NBA production, the conversation gets much colder. That is the pressure, but it is also the opportunity because the bar is not impossible. The Lakers do not need him to average 20 points. They do not need him to carry an offense. They need him to look like a guard who belongs on the floor, even for short stretches. They need him to bring energy without chaos. They need him to make open shots when the defense ignores him. They need him to compete, like every possession matters. That is how role players survive. And Bronny has already shown flashes of understanding that. He does not talk like someone chasing fame, he talks like someone chasing trust. In the NBA, trust can be more valuable than hype. The rumor about Parker may fade. The memes may disappear. But this basketball question will remain. Can Bronny James become more than a famous name? This season may answer it. The fake rumor, the real pressure, and the lesson nobody should miss. In the end, the baby rumor was never the real story. It was a spark. It was a loud, messy, viral distraction built from weak sourcing, parody-style posting, and the internet's hunger for anything connected to the James family. The real story is what the rumor exposed. Bronny James lives in a world where his private life can become public entertainment overnight, and his basketball career can become a national debate after one missed shot. That is not normal pressure for a 1-year-old trying to earn a role in the NBA. That is the cost of carrying one of the most famous names in sports. But pressure does not excuse everything, and criticism is not automatically unfair. Bronny still has to prove he belongs. The NBA is not sentimental. The Lakers cannot keep him forever on storyline alone. If he wants a long career, he must turn potential into production, confidence into consistency, and opportunity into trust. That is the strategic lesson. For Bronny, the path is not superstardom. The path is role clarity. Defend hard, shoot open threes, stay in elite condition, make simple reads. Become the kind of guard coaches trust when the stars need support. That is how he can separate himself from the noise. For the Lakers, the lesson is patience with purpose. Development only works when a player has a clear plan, honest feedback, and real chances to grow. Bronny should not be protected from competition, but he also should not be buried under expectations that never matched his game. And for fans, maybe the lesson is even bigger. A rumor can be fake and still hurt real people. A joke can go viral and still cross a line. A young athlete can be criticized without being dehumanized. Because behind every viral headline is a human being who has to live with the consequences after the timeline moves on. Parker Whitfield did not deserve to have her name turned into clickbait. Bronny did not deserve to have a private relationship used as fuel for another debate about his career. And LeBron, no matter how famous he is, should not have every family-related rumor treated like public property. That is where the NBA audience has to be smarter. We can debate basketball. We can question rotations. We can analyze shooting numbers, defensive impact, and roster decisions. That is part of sports. But when the conversation moves from performance to personal rumor, the line becomes easy to cross. And once millions of people cross it together, the damage becomes impossible to fully take back. Bronny James is not LeBron James. He is also not a punchline. He is a young player trying to build something real while the whole basketball world watches. Maybe he becomes a long-term NBA role player. Maybe he does not. Maybe the Lakers give him time. Maybe another team eventually becomes the better place for his development. But whatever happens next, his career should be judged by verified facts, real games, real work, and real growth, not fake headlines designed to farm attention. The peaceful lesson is simple. Let young people grow without turning every mistake into a public trial. Let athletes earn criticism through their play, not through rumors about their personal lives. And let families protect their private moments without the internet demanding access to everything. Bronny's road is still uncertain, but uncertain does not mean hopeless. His G League flashes matter. His improved confidence matters. His willingness to accept a smaller role matters. His ability to stay calm under pressure matter. These are not guarantees, but they are building blocks. The baby was never real. The pressure always was. And now the only question that truly matters is whether Bronny James can turn that pressure into purpose. If you believe Bronny still has time to prove himself, hit like, share this video, and subscribe for more NBA stories. Comment 1 if you think he will earn a real Lakers role, or comment 2 if you think his NBA future is running out of time.